Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I want to talk more about my experience in the adult film industry, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my craziest experiences on set. Ooh, it's a tongue twister. Um, so let's get right into this. I do want to give a disclaimer that this was a question that was asked in some of my past couple of videos, and it has to do with testing. Now, every model is tested when we get to the filming location. So, and this is for BSB. It doesn't go for some of the other studios that I've worked for, but with BSB, you fly to Florida, and then all the guys go the next day after you land and get tested together. And then we wait for our clean results to come back, and once we're all cleared, we start getting to work and filming. And for that entire week that we're there, we're all together. Like, nobody's allowed to go out to the bars or anything like that, just to make it really safe. And that's kind of a new rule as well, because before BSB started filming in Florida, the guys would get tested right before they flew out to Atlanta to go film, and then we would just spend the week in the house just like we do currently. So let's get started with my craziest experiences. First, I want to say that I'm not going to be mentioning any of the models' names, but I will give them some nicknames, which kind of describes my experience with them. So first we'll get started with Cocky Guy number 1. So Cocky Guy number 1 was another straight guy, and meaning that he led a straight life outside of the adult film industry. So my first impression of this guy was he was really intimidating, not very fun, if you will. He was kind of just, straightforward, straight to the point, almost like a know-it-all behavior. I would say cocky and like a little bit arrogant. And I am no means trying to bully or come off as like hypercritical or anything. I'm just wanting to share my experiences with you guys so you can better understand some of these experiences. So one thing with this guy that I noticed is he seemed like he had done it all. Like he had a story for everything. I think he was like 2 years older than me, so he was acting like he had traveled the whole world and he had done this and he had done that, and it was just coming off as very disingenuous and just kind of fake. So, for example, I would talk about, or somebody would talk about, going overseas and experiencing how this was different overseas in comparison to here in the States, and he would have a story about, oh yeah, and this, and I even saw this when I was over there, and it was just like he never had any pictures to show or anything. It was all just like stories that just seemed like he made them up on the fly. He talked himself up a big game, like, and when I say that, he pretty much was saying how good he was at doing the scenes, and he was such a good top, and like all the other guys better be ready for him, and this, that, and the other. And he had also worked with other studios in the past, some of which were like intense hardcore studios, so I feel like he had that kind of vibe about him because he had to learn that from the other studios that he worked in. So him and I had the first scene of the shoot week, of this particular shoot week that I'm talking about, and he was, like I said, talking himself up a big game. Like, I was getting a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, because sometimes around super cocky people like that, I tend to like fall within myself and become a little bit insecure, but I didn't let myself become like too insecure or anything like that. I still knew what I brought to the table and my confidence and everything like that. So once we got on set, he became very quiet, like very quiet. It was like a switch almost, and it wasn't like a good quiet. It was like he became awkward, and he was just like unable to perform. And I believe that was the longest scene of the shoot, of that particular shoot week. Usually with a good scene partner, you can get a scene done in like an hour, but with him it took like 3 hours or more. And it was just, he was struggling, he couldn't stay aroused, like he was quiet, he just, you know, his movements and like his angles and everything weren't adding up. And it was just, you know, totally not what I was expecting. And he started acting more down to earth after our scene, because I think he realized, you know, I'm not Superman and I'm not the best guy here at what I do. And I think it really humbled him. So that was a good thing, because he really came back down to earth and was more personable after that. But it's crazy how that, you know, changed him. So you know, sometimes we all need to be humbled like that. And I was very understanding and patient the whole time. You guys know me, like, I'll wait. I'm okay with waiting. And we got the scene done. I'm not sure how well rated it was, but most of my scenes are rated pretty high, so I'm sure it was up there. Let's get on to the next guy. So we'll call this cocky guy number 2. And this has to do with a guy that's a little bit earlier in my adult film career. And one of the things that really put me off about him was he was so braggy about his money and how much money he had and how he didn't need to be here and how much better his life is than like all of ours. It just came off so just harsh and just ill, you know, like an ill personality. So I think this was like the first or second day, but he was showing people, or no, he just showed me, because it was me and him sitting watching some TV. And for some reason, he showed me his bank account, and he had like $600,000 in a bank account. And I'm just like, wow, because he was my age at the time, or he is my age. And I just thought, wow, that's like a lot of money for somebody my age to have. That takes years and years and years to earn. So I just figured, you know, like, oh, maybe his, you know, that's his family's money for their business, because I know his family owned some type of business. So I just kind of brushed it off, but he, like, it just didn't sit right with me. It seemed like he was trying to, again, put off another facade and, like, talk himself up this big game. And he was doing the same thing guy number 1 was doing, like, warning us and saying how good he is and how he keeps going and he's nonstop and blah, 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 you know. He was not very nice at all. I wouldn't even say he was a little bit nice. He was just arrogant and just acted like he was better than everybody. And I think that all comes from a place of insecurity. Like, some guys do act like that if they feel insecure, if they don't feel like the most attractive or, you know, the best at the job. They kind of put that wall up to make them feel better. He was very dramatic. He made every little situation into this, like, oh my gosh, and oh my god. And it was just like, everything was so exhausting. I didn't even want to be around him. Nobody did. He was hanging around himself pretty much the whole time, and he had been on the site much longer than I had, or any other model that was there that shoot week. Sorry guys, I'm trying to keep this, you know, consistent, and so I don't have to splice it and cut it and everything else. He wanted special treatment though, and he made it very apparent and blatant in front of the other models too, like acting like he deserved to get his own bedroom just because he had been to film scenes before, and he had a high rating on the site. And some of the producers, or two of the producers, kind of just dealt with it because they knew that he had a high rating. So they kind of just let him treat them like crap and treat us like crap until the last day. And this was the day when we were getting ready to go to the airport to, fly home. And I think there was one scene filming in the morning, like a quick little ending of a scene. And he was just so ready to go, and he didn't feel like waiting for the other guys to be finished so we could all leave as a group. And he was like calling the producer while he was trying to film the rest of the scene, and like get an Uber to the airport, and just being so difficult. And they ended up getting in a huge argument, and he left like probably an hour before we all left to go to the airport, and he like stormed out, and he was cussing out the producer, and the producer was like, he washed his hands of the situation, and I didn't blame him for that because it was just a lot to put up with. I don't care how much you're getting paid. If you're just going to get treated like crap like that, there's only so much you can take before you just throw your hands in the air. So he stormed out. I never saw him again after that. I think they never brought him back to the site after that, and he's still really high rated amongst other models. But you got to be careful with how you treat other people, and that goes for anywhere in life. And as far as our scene goes, it was just like how you think it went. He had to constantly stop. He couldn't say arouse. Like, he just wanted to like rush through it and just get it over with. And mind you, he was getting paid much more than all the other models, which is understandable. But like, if you're going to be getting paid much more, like, put time and effort and make sure that your scene turns out well. Don't just do it haphazardly. Okay, so as you guys can probably tell, I'm talking about certain situations I've had with other models on set. So let's get into Shy Guy. So Shy Guy was honestly such a sweetheart. He was like an angel, just the sweetest boy that you would ever meet. Very shy, but very just pure, and almost like he didn't belong in the industry. And I saw a lot of myself in him, so we got along really well. He just extremely nice, extremely sweet. So I thought that our scene would be easy because it seemed like we had chemistry, but it also seemed like we were maybe a little too much alike. Like, there wasn't that, difference in personality that was big enough to work off of each other in a great way and like harmony. He was very flirty with me. He honestly followed me around like a puppy dog because at this time I had been I'd been with BSB for I think like over a year. I'd gone out to film a bunch of times, and I just was more comfortable, and everybody knew me. So I think he hung around me to feel more comfortable and, just get to know what he was doing. So this scene was honestly a nightmare. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. But the scene with him and I took 2 days to film, a total of almost 7 hours in filming. And this was on and off, on and off, on and off. And the first day we had to just stop it because the photographers were tired. They were exhausted. I think the batteries were out of juice for the cameras. The producer was getting tired. The guys were getting tired because they were all waiting on us to have dinner that day. So we ended up just stopping, and then we continued the next day. Or no, we continued after dinner, and he still couldn't finish. So we continued the next morning, and it ended up just being a fake scene, like a fake, nut. And to my surprise, that is one of the highest rated scenes on the site. And it's honestly, it's so surprising to me because it was so acted out. But I guess it just goes to show that, like, I'm a good actor. And that made me feel like, wow, I really am a good actor, because I was struggling during that scene. And I know it sounds like, oh, you were probably just like waiting around. Like, that's not hard. No, it's hard when you're sitting under like 6 bright lights for hours on end and you're naked and you're just like covered in lube. It's a lot. Like, it's a lot to constantly just, you know, sorry guys, I hope you can't hear that. I have no idea what that noise is. But yeah, like, I started sweating, and you know, it just, you start just getting over it. You just want to go take a shower, and you get hungry and cranky, and but you have to be professional, of course. So again, I was sitting there for like a total of 7 hours, just like in doggy style, like just like this on the bed, just waiting for him to finish. And like, I can't be on my phone. I just have to sit there in silence. And it just was almost painful because he was pushing himself so hard. At one point in time, I looked at him, his face looked like a red apple. Like, he was so red and just dripping sweat. And I was just a little grossed out. And I was praying, honestly. I wanted it to be over with. And like I said, it was just very, very acted out. I would say the first 10 to 15 minutes of the scene was genuine and, you know, just going with the flow. But then when it became towards the end, it just, yeah. So that was probably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult scene that I have ever done. And it made me look at the industry a little bit differently, especially after the scene had become one of my highest rated scenes. That was like a total surprise to me. So let's get to the next situation. Okay. So a disclaimer on this, if you guys don't like hearing about blood or anything like that, go ahead and skip forward about 3 minutes of this portion of the video into the last portion of the video, because I don't want to gross you guys out. So this was a bloody surprise. So this particular model is very well known to the site. He's been there longer than I have. He's done way more scenes than I have, and he's just kind of like a pro at this point. So during our scene, I began to give him head, and I was going down, going in. You know, we had already gotten like 15 minutes of footage. Usually they only need like 25 minutes. So some guys like to rush through it. Some guys like to just go with the flow. It all just depends how the vibe is. I just go off vibes, you know. Let me get some Red Bull. Oops. So after about like 5 minutes of, you know, giving him head, the producers were like, "Hey Richie, stop it." I'm like, "Why? What's wrong?" And they're like, "Go to the bathroom." And then my scene partner is like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." So I go to the bathroom. There's blood on my lips. Not a lot, but like you can see it, and it's like just gross. So yeah, it was really scary for me. Honestly, my life flashed before my eyes when that happened, because it just never happened before when I was filming a scene. It's not like I'm scared of blood or anything, but was not expecting that to happen. So it turned out that the guy that I was doing the scene with had a foreskin, and he had irritated the foreskin from a scene that he did the day prior. Hold on. That Red Bull is always making me belch. So he had irritated the foreskin from a scene that he did the day prior, and I guess it never healed properly or something. And sorry guys, this is really gross, but I washed it off. I was almost gonna forfeit the scene, but then I wouldn't have made the money, and we had already gone halfway through the scene, so we just moved forward to the next phase of the scene. And I ended up topping him. He didn't top me because of that situation. I wasn't gonna let him top me because of that. I don't care how much money I was gonna make. I had to like negotiate with the producers because I just wasn't gonna let that happen. I wasn't gonna let it fly. That's gross, ew. So yeah, I ended up topping him, and that was just not really a good scene. And the guy who, the scene partner who I was working with on that scene, he was a sweetheart as well. We got along really well. We loved playing video games together. He had been out a couple other times when I was filming in the past, but yeah, that just made me kind of like grossed out. Understandably though, right? Who wouldn't be? Let's get to the final situation that I'm going to be talking about in the adult film industry, and this has to do with a guy who I worked with early in my career, and he smoked cigarettes. And I'm sorry, but I think just the smell of cigarette smoke on somebody, especially in a intimate situation, is just the most dirtiest smell, the biggest turnoff for me, and I just can't stand it. Like, I don't mind if you smoke, but if you're here to do a scene, like, the least you can do is shower before your scene and then wait to smoke a cigarette after your scene. Right? Like, at least have some respect for your partner who you're working with. So this guy had smoked a lot of cigarettes. Like, he was always out on the balcony smoking a cigarette when he wasn't filming, and he wasn't a newbie at all. He was nice though. We got along really well. Guys, I'm easy to get along with. Like, I rarely have problems with anybody. And if I do, I'm not really the most confrontational person, so I'll just kind of like avoid that person unless something happens. But me and him got along pretty well. So, first, he was late to the scene. Second, he smelled horribly of cigarettes. Like, he probably had smoked like 3 cigarettes before the scene without even putting any Listerine in his mouth or cologne or anything. Lotion. Come on, you could have done something. So yeah, and then we were getting pretty close towards the end of the scene, and he started sweating, which is normal. That happens a lot. Usually if it's a good scene, like, somebody will start sweating, or both of you. And he started sweating, and it's like this nasty, wet cigarette smoke smell. Like, I can't even describe it. It doesn't even smell like a cigarette, but it smells like nicotine or something. It was like the nicotine was sweating out of his skin, and it was dripping on me, like on my face, on my chest. Just so gross. And I was just biting the bullet and just waiting for the scene to end. That was another scene that wasn't really rated the highest, and I think it was just because I was still really new and I truly was acting, but I was also disassociating. And that's something I've had to do in a couple of my scenes. And I truly was. I was like imagining myself as like an inanimate object, as like some type of doll or something, and just like placing my mind somewhere else until it got finished. And then once it got finished, I always remember feeling like coming back into myself and feeling a sense of like euphoria and almost like, where am I, and like what just happened. It's really hard to describe, but it's not something I learned. It's kind of something that I just started doing. And somebody said, oh, when I was explaining this to somebody like a couple years ago, they were like, oh, that's disassociating. That's not healthy at all for your mentality and mental health. And I was like, huh, I've never thought about it that way. So ever since then, I've just considered that to be disassociating. But there's other jobs that some, people do that in. So like even like law enforcement officers might have to do that sometimes and like disconnect their emotions while they're doing something, or even like social workers, people who work at the DMV, people, it's like sometimes you just have to like get the job done, So I wanted to share those stories with you guys. Those aren't even I still have crazier ones, but I don't want this video to be another half hour long because I know you guys would prefer them to be a little bit shorter. But if you're new here and you like this video, please give it a like, and also subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. I upload twice a week, and that's on Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. So let me know what you guys thought about this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.